Welcome, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to our meeting of the Board of Directors for San Diego Community Power. It's good to see everyone on this August 25th, slightly after 5 p.m. It looks like we have everyone, just about everyone. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. And we're going to start with, we have, as you know, we're always building our team because it takes a lot of hands to do all of the stuff that we have to accomplish. And so we have a few new team members tonight that I want to introduce you to. One, I think, is here to actually say a few words, so I'll give her an opportunity to do that. And the two, I think, are not present right now, but they'll be with us next week or the next meeting, and they'll be able to introduce themselves. So I'm going to take this out of order and actually introduce the person who is here with us to say a few words, and that's Victoria Abernica. And she's our public outreach associate, and she comes to us from the Community Advisory Committee. And so we'll thank you, Victoria, for joining our team, and thank you for all the work that you did on the Community Advisory Committee as well. So Victoria, if you want, you can have a few seconds or a few minutes to say a few words about yourself and about joining the team. Apologize if I was the one that got this wrong. If it's actually somebody else.
No, you didn't. I'm not sure why she's not on, so we can go ahead and move on.
All right, so let's maybe we can, if she doesn't join us. If she does, Kimberly, maybe you can just let me know, and I'll call on her. If not, then we can introduce all of them at the next meeting. But just wanted to let you know that we also have Kenny Kay, who is our Senior Contract Manager, Power Services, and you know how important this group is. And so I'm glad to see that we're recruiting for that group, and that group is getting augmented. And also Taco J. Kuba, who is the Senior Settlements Manager in Power Services, again, in Byron's group. So we're building up that group so it's as strong as possible to tackle the power needs of our organization, our territory. I also want to thank Tom Summers, who I think is here with us tonight, and Edward Lopez for their service on the Community Advisory Committee. They're going to be going off the Community Advisory Committee, but we are very thankful and appreciative of all the work that you've done for us in representing your communities. If Tom or Ed want to say anything, Tom, are you here? There you are. Tom, did you want to say anything?
Only that I'm really grateful to have had a chance to be on the Community Advisory Committee and to be a part of San Diego Community Power, and especially representing Imperial Beach, which, as you guys know, was the first municipality to go live with our program. And this has just been a wonderful experience for me. I'm not going anywhere. I moved. I now live on my boat on the bay in San Diego, but I intend to be up to speed and a part of San Diego Community Power as we go forward. And yeah, just thank you guys for a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Tom. Ed, did you want to say a few words? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Simply put, my appreciation and gratitude to San Diego Community Power for the opportunity. It was an honor and a privilege. I do also want to recognize and thank the City of Chula Vista and the full council, but particular council members Padilla and McCann, for the opportunity to serve and represent. It's incredible work, important work that San Diego Community Power does. Time commitments keep me from serving to the standard I'd like to. Part of that time commitment is my day job, the Utility Consumers Action Network, or UCAN. And as always, UCAN recognize it is such an incredible choice, particularly for utility customers. We hope we can work together to bring a reasonable choice and full and fair and affordable access to renewable energy for the entire region. But again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
We agree with you, Ed, and thank you for your service, not only on the CAC, but also on UCAN. Important work.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Chair, if I can just say, Ed
Absolutely.
is a tremendous representative, and we're honored to have him with us. We really appreciate him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Tom. Did anybody else want to say anything regarding Tom or Ed? You're welcome to do that. Just jump right in. All right, let's, I see Victoria's back. Victoria, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, Chair Mosca, for the introduction. My name is Victoria Brenica. I use she, her pronouns. I'm San Diego Community Power's new public outreach associate. Before taking this role, I represented unincorporated San Diego County on their CAC. So thank you, Supervisor Lawson Reamer, for believing in me and appointing me. But I'm the founder of the Spring Valley Cleanup Crew, sit on my local parks board, and the vice chair of the Spring Valley Community Planning Group, and have an extensive background in marketing and outreach and community organizing. And I'm so excited to use all my skills and give them to Community Power.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria. Victoria, I look forward to seeing you at one of the events in the future, and thank you for joining the team as well. I think I saw you, I think we introduced, we met at the baseball field there for the kickoff of the launch of San Diego, City of San Diego. That was a nice event. So, well, thank you. And thank you to County Supervisor Tara Lawson Reamer for appointing you. And then also now you're part of the team. So thank you.
Well, let me just take a moment. I think the world of you, and I'm so glad that San Diego Community Power has made a great decision, and now you're going to be driving this team forward. So really excited about it.
Thank you, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
All right. Excellent. Let's move on. And we haven't done the Pledge of Allegiance, so let's do that. Ready? Hand over heart. Or please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kimberly, can we do a roll call?
Yes, City of San Diego Representative,
LaCava, present.
County of San Diego Representative,
Present.
Imperial Beach Representative, La Mesa Representative,
Present.
National City Representative,
Sotelo Solis, present.
Chula Vista Representative,
Councilmember John McCann.
Encinitas Representative.
Here, Joe.
We
Mosca.
have quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Kimberly, any changes to the posted agenda?
No changes.
All right, let's move to public comment. This would be the opportunity for any members of the public to comment on items that are not on our agenda, and they have 3 minutes to do so. Do we have any written comments or anybody in the audience to recognize Kimberly?
Right now, we have only one submitted written public content or comment, and I emailed everyone the handout he provided. David Peterson, if you would like to speak, you can unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. I just have a couple of comments. In the April 28th Board of Director comments presentations, 4 changes to the example elevation summary, evaluation summary were recommended. And that chart was in the CAC presentation, February 11th, page 17. In the June 23rd public comments presentation, it was shown that solar battery farms should have a much reduced annual CO2 emission when you compare them to wind farms. And this conclusion is pertinent to the above chart. Finally, the release of the lithium-ion car battery recycling advisory group final report means that planning to demonstrate that repurposing of EV batteries should begin. And so I just have a couple of requests. Will SDCP please provide some indication when the above CAC chart will be updated and incorporated into the procurement process? And will SDCP please provide a date for a go-forward plan that includes demonstrating the repurposing of EV lithium-ion batteries? That's it. I thank the board for their time and consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peterson. The other thing you can do is follow up with staff with an email to staff so that they can get back to you on the specific information that you've requested, okay?
Okay, how do I do that? Who Ms. Isley, or who is the right person to
If you go on to www.sdcommunitypower.org. There's an email address there, and just email your questions, and they'll route it to the appropriate person.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Same to you.
Any other public comment, Kimberly?
There are no additional comments and no hands raised.
All right, so without any further public comments, we're going to move to the consent calendar. We have six items on the consent calendar. Are there any items, Kimberly, that you've heard that need to be pulled?
It was, okay.
Kimberly, are there any items to be pulled from the consent calendar that you've heard?
Director LaCava?
Yeah, Chair Muska, I want to pull item 4.
All right, we'll pull item number 4. Any other items, Kimberly?
No, not that I'm aware of.
All right, any public comment on the remainder of the consent calendar?
No hands raised.
All right, do we have a motion? If there are no comments on the consent calendar, if there's a motion, I'll entertain a motion on the consent calendar, the remainder of it.
So
Sotelo
moved.
Solis moved.
All right, so I think I heard, who moved it?
I'll
Sotelo Solis
second it.
moved.
Councilmember John McCann.
All right, Councilmember
Second.
John McCann moved it, and then Director Alejandra Sotelo Solis second. All right.
I'm okay being the second if she'd like to be the first.
All right. Kimberly, did you want to call the vote?
Yes. Director Baber, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director McCann, how do you vote?
Aye, yes.
Director LaCava, how do you vote? Director LaCava, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Director Sotelo Solis, how do you vote?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Director Lawson Remer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Mosca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
Excellent. Let's move to item number 4, approval. What was that? That was approval of delegation of signatory authority to Chief Financial Officer and Managing Director of Power Services. And Director LaCava, did you want a presentation on this, or did you have questions?
No, I wanted to make an amendment to the resolution, a minor clarification that I think carries some of the language that was in the staff report into the resolution, just so that there is complete clarity. And I don't know, Kimberly, do you have a slide that shows the amendment?
No, there is not a slide that shows the amendment.
Oh, I think
the resolution is 1 page.
right.
All right.
So I wanted to add a couple of additional points, and Brian, can you share? Or Brian or Ryan?
Yes, I can read it. I have your suggested edits here and I can read them out loud if that's all right.
So Ryan, while I have it on my screen, I'm wondering if all board members have it on their screen, so it may be hard for them to follow along.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in a Citrix system and I can't share outside of that.
Kimberly, can you pull up the resolution so that we can look at it?
Yeah, let me stop sharing here.
Chair Mosca, this is Brian. I can share the language on behalf of the council member. Kimberly, I can't share at the same time that you are, it turns out.
Okay.
So whoever wants to share it.
Kimberly, the slide is in your inbox if you're able to share it. Oh,
Sure.
there it is.
Yeah, as you can see, they have no issue with the proposal that is before us, but there was some clarifications in the staff report that I thought was important to carry forward actually into the resolution, since we're going to take an action on that. And as the board members can read, and I'll read it in, I think I need to do that. I would move approval of the resolution with the following amendment to add section D. The Chief Financial Officer and Managing Director of Power Services would still be required to follow all the procurement requirements set forth in the applicable policy or delegation, and only in the absence of the CEO. And E, the signatory authority would apply to all SDCP agreements where the chief executive officer has delegated authority, including the energy risk management policy, procurement policy, and other such policies, resolutions, and board actions where the board has authorized the CEO to enter into an agreement.
All right,
So that would be my motion.
So are these, Director LaCava, are these, so D doesn't even follow D in resolution 2022-10 that we've posted, because it, so is D, I'm trying to figure out. So this is just me on the spot here trying to figure this out.
The existing D would move to F. I think Director LaCava's E is reflected in the current D, but this would make it more specific. And I think that by having this in the resolution, you know, if folks weren't reading the staff report and just picking up the resolution, it would be clear what they would have to follow, which applies anyway, but this is much more express.
So you're saying that E, Director LaCava's amendment E would actually be what we have in D in the resolution that's posted.
Yes, but it's more explicit here, and it lists the policies, including but not limited to.
All right. Well, so let me just say that it looks actually, and not it in terms of what we have, it actually seems, it appears to strengthen this. But this is the first time I've seen this amendment, Director LaCava. And generally speaking, if we've posted something, if there's a small little change, then I'm good with actually on the spot changing. But if there's substantive things, I guess I'm just wondering whether or not we should just repost this and have it on the September board meeting. Well, there's a motion out there, so I've stated my thoughts, and I guess we can see where the vote goes and see if folks are actually comfortable with it. You know, it appears straightforward, but it is different than what was posted. And so I think that reposting this allows one more month for people to see it and comment on it if they have any issues, and allows for all of us to kind of look at it again. But just from what it says, it actually strengthens what the intent of this resolution was.
Just quickly, I appreciate the chair, and I'm surely, you know, to the will of the board. This was clarifying language that was in the staff report. And so simply being carried into the resolution itself for, but I appreciate where you're coming from. I'll look forward to what the other board members say.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second on this motion? I'm going to second the motion just for sake of discussion. And I'm going to go to Director Alejandra Sotelo Solis.
Thank you so much, Chair. I would actually, I think if we just hold the item over, if there's no time sensitivity, I'll ask legal counsel through the chair. Is there a sensitivity to, you know, meeting a deadline before the end of the month with this language?
No, there isn't, Director. Not that I'm aware of, unless the CEO is going on vacation in the next 30 days. But even then, she can still sign all the agreements that are delegated to her.
And what I would say is if we can just hold the item over, you know, if the maker and the seconder would just, because I'm looking forward, I think this is really clarifying, but just for everyone's purposes, if there are any questions, we can kind of, you know, let the public vet it as well. I'd be willing to hold this item over, and if the maker of the motion would like to, you know, amend the original motion. If not, I'll make a substitute motion to just hold the item over till the next meeting. But through the chair, I'll just ask my colleague, you know, if you're okay with holding it over, I think it'll be, you know, for the public's, for public consumption, and as well as just transparency, giving, because now we're going to start looking at much more policy and internal growth. And I think anytime we give authority to folks, I think we want to give a little bit more time, but just my thought. So I guess maker of the motion, if they'll hold it over. Director LaCava, through the chair.
I would just prefer to wait till I hear from Director McCann. But yeah, I mean, if that's the will of the board, certainly no objection. This is really a little more pressure on the CEO. But yeah, happy to do that, whether
Okay.
to withdraw the motion or to move that we defer it to September.
Okay, so the maker of the motion is saying he will keep the portion. I'll do a substitute motion to hold this item over to the September South County San Diego Community Power meeting.
All right. Is it okay if we just let's just call on Director McCann and see where he's going, because we may be able to resolve this with fewer motions for Kimberly to have to record. Director McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the motion and your ideas, Director Akava. I agree with the idea that if there's no urgency on this, we want to be fully transparent. So I would prefer to be able to leave this for another month to make sure that the public fully vets it, and then we can make that choice. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Director LaCava, did you want to withdraw your motion, and we'll just bring it back in September?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the motion. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Kimberly, any public comment on this item? Item number 4.
Brian Elliott still has his hand up, but I don't know if that's from before. It looks like it's down, so there are no additional comments.
All right, if there's no public comment and if there's no further comments or questions by the board, we'll just we'll table this until September. Let's put it back on the agenda with the changes, and we'll post it. All right, let's move on to item number 7, which is the next item in our agenda, and that's update on Phase 3 residential media outreach campaign. And this is going to be presented by Rachel Hummel.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Chair Mosca and directors. I will be presenting on the Phase 3 residential outreach campaign. Next slide. Okay, so we wanted to just quickly run through the plan parameters. We ran this campaign from January 24th to July 17th, so wrapped it up not that long ago. The goal of this from a media perspective was just to establish awareness and familiarity of San Diego Community Power in the region, and then to also shape positive perception amongst customers to support change kind of longer long-term strategy based on what we had kind of learned from Phase 2. So our primary, we had primary as well as our secondary kind of target audiences. We marketed a few different channels, so both traditional print, so social media, C-store bulletins. We also promoted on freeway billboards as well. And what we measured was overall reach, site visits, engagement, and opt-ups for Power 100. Next slide. So with this, we wanted to make sure that we were running not only a regional campaign, but where each city was being enrolled. We also did a city-focused campaign. So this just goes over a little bit of how we actually handled per city, where we were sending out both the pre-enrollment notices as well as kind of combining them with our outreach campaign. Next slide. So this is just an example. We had 2 large campaigns. The first one was Oh Yeah And. So this was a broader campaign just meant to stimulate the feeling of kind of dropping into the middle of a conversation between friends. Or neighbors kind of talking about their impressions of SDCP. So we visualized these through a sort of text message. And then these were published in 3 different languages as well. Next slide. The other campaign was My Reasons. So this one particularly was specific to each city. So community members would share their reasons for supporting not only San Diego Community Power, but creating this feel of local pride. That a concept was first developed as part of Phase 2 commercial outreach. And next slide. So just to give you, oh, next slide, sorry. So just to give you an example, for the enrollment notices, the campaigns that I just showed you, this was reflected in both enrollment notices 3 and 4, which was sent out to residents. So we made sure that we align that from a branding and visibility perspective for customers. Next slide. In addition to the media campaign, we also did over 50 public engagement outreach events from January through July 2022. And these included planning groups. You've probably been part of several of these. We had Mosca with the honorary pitch for the Padres game. We also presented at Chambers of Business, Rotary Clubs, activation nights. We were at San Diego Pride Festival. That was about 300,000 attendees. We were at the Regional Bike Summit, which was a more localized event, about 200. Next slide. So what we found out, kind of key takeaways and future implications for when we start to head into our next phase. We really want to prioritize certain media channels. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they did really well in terms of our media campaign. Nextdoor did not do as well for a high cost. This would be more effective as something for kind of organic engagement that we can still look into. Display, so what had previously been shown, billboards, window displays in different languages, those remained a really strong traffic driver, as well as for visibility and awareness, especially for the SDCP brand. Organic search, so that's when someone is just Googling who we are. That is something that actually has a higher volume of traffic than if we had a paid search. So we found that paid search was actually not very effective. We suggest that we continue to use local print and radio to bolster brand awareness and community trust as we move forward into the next phase. Next slide. And I think that should be it. Any questions?
Rachel, thank you so much for that presentation, and thank you for all the creative, amazing work that you're doing to bring our story to our residents and our customers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have to thank Civilian is our agency. They do a wonderful job. So just wanted to make sure we support them and thank them.
Absolutely, we should give them plugs all the time. They've been with us for a while, and they've done a great job. I mean, they did our logo and everything. So no, I'm very impressed by Civilian. They've been awesome. Any public comment, Kimberly, on this item?
There are no hands raised.
All right. Any directors have any questions or comments? All right, not seeing anybody jump up or raise their hand. This is a receive and file, so we will receive it and file it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Let's move on to item number 8, which is update on regulatory and legislative affairs presented by Stephen Gunther and Sebastian Serra. And I think this is, Sebastian, is this your first time on regulatory and legislative affairs?
This is my first time, Chair Mosca.
All right, well, thank you for presenting this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chair Mosca, members of the board. Before I jump into the legislative updates, which there have been several, I wanted to introduce you all to our lobbyist, Amy Costa. She is on the line here today. And Amy, if you don't mind just taking a few minutes to introduce yourself, speak about the work that you've done and what amazing things we're doing together right now.
Great, thanks, Sebastian. Good evening, Mr. Chair and directors. My name is Amy Costa. I'm the CEO and founder of Full Moon Strategies. It's my pleasure to represent San Diego Community Power in Sacramento. Just by way of background, I served as Chief Deputy Director of Finance for Governor Jerry Brown and was the Chief Negotiator for the state budget for that administration. I have over a decade of experience in various legislative roles. And clearly energy is a big topic of discussion in Sacramento these days. And Sebastian will give you some more updates, but we are coming down to the wire at the end of the legislative session with the incoming on August 31st, with energy still being a big question mark with the Diablo Canyon proposal by the administration and a larger energy and climate package still being debated. With that, I'll turn it over to Sebastian. Of course, happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Amy, and thank you for being part of the team and representing us up in Sacramento. I've always felt that some of the IOUs have a cadre, an army of folks representing them, and we need to be as strong as they are to kind of really make sure that our story is being told and our interest is being protected. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Kimberly, next slide. So as Amy was saying, it is the close of the legislative session. There are many bills that are reaching the final stages. And here's a sample of a couple of bills that we've been tracking. Excuse me, in previous board meetings, we have provided updates on AB 2838, authored by O'Donnell. This bill, we successfully included amendments that removed provisions that would have allowed SDG&E to seek cost recovery from non-participating customers as part of terminating their EcoChoice and EcoShare programs. We just wanted to keep track of it, making sure that there were no surprises. And as of today, thank you to Amy's update, it is on its way to the governor's desk. So the update as of 8/22 is now outdated. That's how quickly things have been going now. SB 1020 is a climate leadership bill. It is sponsored by Laird, also by Senate Pro Tem Tony Atkins. This bill is still ordered for third reading in the Assembly, but among the many things that it does is that it sets interim targets for the state's 100% clean energy goal by 2045. There's more details in the staff report, but basically it sets up 90% by 2035, 95% by 2040, and then obviously 100% by 2045. It also requires state agencies like Caltrans, for example, to be at 100% renewable energy by 2030. SCCP, along with a consortium of other CCAs, successfully got amendments to ensure that our 100% renewable energy product, our 100, would be eligible to serve the loads of these state agencies. And so we succeeded in including those amendments. So now agencies that would be located in our service territory would be eligible to receive power from us. A quick update on those two bills. We have a neutral position on AB 2838. We have a support position on SB 1020. Pause right there, see if there are any questions. If not, Kimberly, we can move to the next slide. Perfect. As many of you may have seen through the news or through your own government affairs staff, the governor released a series of climate proposals. There's a lot of detail in those, but you can see the specifics of those here on your screen. I'll just name a few: codify statewide carbon neutrality goal by 2045. It establishes a setback of 3.2K feet of new oil wells in homes, schools, and parks. Creates those interim targets for the state's 2045 goal of 100%, and seeks to create a framework for carbon capture and sequestration. These proposals are making their way into individual bills this week, and as Amy was saying, they need to be finalized by Sunday in order to be considered. And so we're tracking it. Things are moving very quickly. Not a lot of information out there at the moment, but we're making sure that we're aware. The big one, as you all may have seen as well, wasn't formally part of the governor's climate proposals. I believe there was an attachment to the staff report, but it's the extension of the operating lifespan of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant. We are tracking this very closely through CalCCA, through Amy, and also through our own individual channels. Why? Because the governor's proposal would be to extend the operating lifespan of Diablo past its sunset dates of 2024 and 2025. You may wonder why 2024 and 2025. That is because one of those speakers that you see there would be 2024 and the other one would be 2025. There's one detail in there that we are tracking and is the potential for all of California's ratepayers to pitch into the operating cost of Diablo Canyon. Right now, Diablo only benefits PG&E customers, and so it is not in our portfolio. But we are tracking this very closely, and we'll make sure to report any updates by next month's board meeting. I'll pause right there, see if there are any questions.
Any questions for Sebastian? Sebastian, so right now the proposal is to rate base statewide any operational costs for this facility?
It's a myriad of that, Chair. PG&E would be receiving a $1.4 billion loan. And the reason why it's being moved so quickly is because they're operating under a deadline by the federal government to apply for reimbursable funds from the federal government for this type of nuclear facility. I believe the date is September 6th. And if they're able to get those funds reimbursed, that may be able to pay off some of those operating costs. But as part of this whole overall package, and like I said, there's not much information out there, would be a sort of fixed fee across all of the 3 IOUs ratepayer customers.
All right.
And so again, we're tracking it very closely, and we'll keep you all abreast of what's going on.
Wondering if Amy has any color here in terms of, I'd imagine that it plays well on the national level, but here in California, it probably doesn't play that well. And I would imagine it's putting the legislature in a pretty tight bind.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Senator Hueso chaired an oversight hearing today, and Senator Laird, who represents the area, had quite a few comments. I think in general, the legislature is struggling with the administration basically saying there's a gap that needs to be filled, and that the grid is really being overtaxed. And to Sebastian's point, the legislature had a lot of pointed questions for the administration about the role of ratepayers. The financing mechanism, as Sebastian laid out, is really a state general fund loan of $1.4 billion. And then they would backfill that with the federal funds. As was pointed out, though, in the hearing, that is a grant program, and it's not guaranteed that this particular project would apply and get those fundings. And so a lot of the legislative discussion was around who holds the buck at the end of the day. Right. And then, of course, a lot of questions about safety. And, clearly some pretty serious concerns from the environmental community as well about the wildlife and the impacts of the ocean near the plant.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Never a dull moment, for sure.
Yeah.
Next slide, Kimberly, please. On exciting news, obviously, I think it is worthwhile to celebrate the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. SCCP did submit a support letter right before the House passed the legislation, and it was officially signed into law on August 16th by President Joe Biden. It is a hefty piece of legislation, and there is roughly $370 billion earmarked for climate projects, and we are tracking every single penny of it. Here you can see a quick summary of what this legislation would provide, but in summary, there's a lot of opportunity here. Tax credits for solar and wind production will be extended by 10 years. There is plenty of funds being allocated to incentivize clean vehicle manufacturing here in the US. There is funds available for home rebate programs, including heat pumps and to pursue electrification. There's also a focus on creating a national green bank. And this would be to appropriate the what they're calling the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And as you can see here, it would operate with $27 billion. And this would be focused on low income and disadvantaged communities. It'll be distributed to the country's green banks. California does have a green bank. It is administered by the state treasurer. And Amy and I are working to understand how our green bank will work in getting those funds and how we can tap into all of that. And so it's fairly recent that this legislation passed. We are tracking all sides of it. We are talking to our stakeholders. We're talking to the industry professionals and ensuring that we don't miss a beat and staying abreast of it. But we're very excited for it and working with as many people as possible to get our hands to it. Are there any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you so much for sending in the letter of support. And as much as we can do to kind of digest this and really message out what this means for our region and however we can partner with other stakeholders to get that information out, specifically, the tax incentives for solar, for energy efficiency, for upgrades to your house. If you want to buy that EV and you have to put a 200 amp system on your house and you don't have it, that all of that work can be, you can write off, and there can be tax credits for you. And so I think all of that information we need to kind of get out to our residents or our ratepayers to let them know so that they can more easily move to solar and yeah. So whatever we can do to work with stakeholders to make sure that we're messaging that's great. Any questions or comments for Sebastian?
Great. Just want to add a quick note, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague, Stephen. Just very excited to have Amy on board. We are planning some exciting things. So stay tuned for next month and the next few months, because San Diego likes to get busy, and like you said, Chair Mosca, we are older than the Inflation Reduction Act, so we can be proactive and know how these dollars will be appropriated and be proactive about it. So I just want to close out with that. Thank you all so much, and I'll pass it over to Stephen.
Good. Amy, one more comment. I've noticed that there are more and more folks up in Sacramento that understand community choice energy, and rightly so, right? Because there are more and more representatives that come from districts that have CCEs. And so, but whatever we can do to help educate our representatives up in Sacramento about community choice energy programs, because obviously they know about the IOUs. But there are still some of them that even if they come from areas where there's a CCE or CCA, they may not know about it. So I think it's up to us. It's really incumbent upon us to educate them about that. So however we can come up with a strategy of doing that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, to Sebastian's point, I think you're previewing some of what we're going to be bringing back to you this fall. We wholeheartedly agree. And luckily we have a great board and a great team that can help educate the policymakers in Sacramento. And especially coming from the San Diego area, you have quite a illustrious legislative delegation. So we have some work ahead of us, but it'll be great. I'm looking forward to next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. Stephen?
Yes, thank you, Chair Mosca, and good evening, members of the board. Well, maybe not quite as hot off the press as Sebastian's items. Next slide, please. I did want to provide two brief regulatory updates, both which are related to growing interest in demand flexibility that we're seeing at the state agencies. So the first is at the California Energy Commission. It's their proposed amendments to the load management standards. And these are the same load management standards that were first established in the 1970s to help reduce demand and peak load through a whole variety of strategies. But this latest round of amendments is focused on leveraging price signals through rates and automation. The proposed regulations have several aspects, including the development and oh, excuse me, sorry, can you just go back one slide, Kimberly? There we go. Give the background before the update. Yeah, the maintenance of a statewide rate database, which you can kind of see that vision in the image of the right. But most notably from SDCP's perspective is the proposal to require the large IOUs and CCAs to develop sub-hourly locational rates that reflect marginal wholesale costs. So next slide now, please. So SDCP has been actively engaged through CalCCA throughout this proceeding at the Energy Commission. And generally, we see the value in more dynamic rates as a way to promote demand side load management and get more renewables on board. But we have significant jurisdictional concerns about the CEC mandating what are very prescriptive rates and the implications that has on our local rate making autonomy. We also raised some implementation issues, such as the timely data access that we currently don't always receive, and the current billing system infrastructure's ability to support what was a fairly aggressive timeline when they're rolling these out. The CEC's latest revisions attempted to provide some flexibility. They expanded deadlines and created pathways for exemptions and modifications. But the latest revision still didn't get at the core jurisdictional concerns that we shared with other CCAs. So we reiterated that again in comments. The latest update on this is that it was set to be voted on at the Energy Commission's August 10th business meeting, but that vote has been postponed indefinitely. So we're watching closely for when that vote is rescheduled, or if there are any additional revisions that will happen before it's taken back to the commission. And we're working with CalCCA to hopefully continue to educate the CEC on why this the mandate would be problematic. So that's what's going on at the Energy Commission. And then the CPUC just opened a separate but very related proceeding last month. So next slide, Kimberly. So the CPUC's new rulemaking is titled to advance demand flexibility through electric rates. And there aren't a whole lot of details yet. They just opened the proceeding. So they're listed the high level objectives that are listed here. And it did make a direct connection to the Energy Commission's efforts because the Energy Commission doesn't have jurisdiction over the IOU's rates either. So the CPUC needs to have this kind of parallel proceeding on their end. So like I said, there's not a whole lot that's just opened. Next month, there'll be a pre-hearing conference followed by a ruling that will have the scope in more detail along with the schedule. But we did engage with CalCCA to provide some opening comments to kind of support the idea of demand flexibility and again, highlight the importance of timely data access, to enable CCA customers to participate in any kind of forthcoming demand flexibility efforts. So we'll be tracking this and engaging at it as this new proceeding moves forward. And that is all I had on these two updates. And thank you, and happy to take any questions on either of these.
Any questions for Stephen? So the CEC has jurisdiction over the CCA's rate setting, but the CPUC does not.
No, the CPUC or the CEC does not either. The local board has authority on our rates, and that is the argument that we're making. That and they did acknowledge that each CCA's board has the ultimate authority to approve rates, but the way it's currently written, if they're not approved, there's potential penalties that the Energy Commission could impose. So it's acknowledging the fact that they don't have jurisdiction, but they're still trying to basically mandate it as anyway.
Does the CEC have this type of authority with the MOUs?
They also are have ultimate rate making authority through their boards. So they would
be standing with us in terms of this objection to this. And then so the PUC isn't seeking to mandate this on the CCAs. This is more for IOUs, and we're engaging in the CPUC process because we believe that there's a value to having consistency between the rates that we have, the tariffs that we have, and the tariffs that the IOU has.
Yeah, ultimately, the IOU rate structure, whether we like it or not, sometimes does impact our rate design. So
absolutely,
if they're offering these dynamic rates to their customers as a way to, respond to rate signals, that's probably something we would like to do, but we'd like to do it with our, using our experts on our team to develop the rates that are best suited for our own communities.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I think that obviously, using the rate structure to shape demand in an equitable way and in a way that works for our communities is good, and it's what we should be doing. But you also need to have information and data immediately, and consumers need to have understanding of what the rates are and what their consumption is to actually work. All right. Any questions for Stephen? Kimberly, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments.
All right. Well, thank you to Stephen and Sebastian and Amy. That was a great presentation. And this is a receive and file, so we'll do that. And thank you, guys. Let's move on to item number 9, which is approval of the 2021 Power Source Disclosure Program Annual Reports and Power Content Label. Very exciting presentation from Byron Vosberg.
Hey, thank you, Chair. And I'm dodging. If I look awkward here on the screen, I've got a light coming right in the window, so I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
This spot looks better during the day apparently than at 6 p.m. on a call. Yeah, very, very scintillating material here for you all. So thank you, Chair, for the introduction. The recommendation here is a mouthful. Hopefully, though, we can get through it pretty quickly. Next slide, please, Kimberly. So high level, we're basically doing our accounting here, or report card, if you will, or I've heard it called the nutritional facts of our power supply for 2021 at the end of the year. I'll note, yes, it is almost the end of August in 2022. That's just kind of the way this works, and as long as this timing usually takes. So we're talking now about an end of 2021 calendar year through December of 2021. So this is always a number of months delayed, but we're just closing out kind of reporting for the end of 2021. So the background here is the PUC requires all LLCs to disclose their power content in the previous year. This goes into both the power source disclosure reports and the power content label. The power source disclosure goes to the CEC, and the power content label then gets distributed to all customers. The requirement here is that I come to you all as a board to authorize and attest to its accuracy before we submit and distribute. Next slide, please, Kimberly. So none of this should be a surprise. We reported on this before, and consistent with the drafts that we reviewed with you all in May. We've reviewed this thoroughly, painstaking and mind-numbingly thoroughly through all of our meter data, through all of our data for our load, and also with our contracts, and then going with our technical consultants, Pacific Energy Advisors, through all of our Regis reporting and all of the even kind of tag by tag and megawatt hour by megawatt hour to confirm that it's all compliant and as expected. So everything has tied out this year, and you can see on the right, it's certainly a next level eye chart here for your reading pleasure. But it's basically you'll see a comparison of our power content for our two products, for Power On and Power 100, compared to the California Power Mix. That's basically what's happening in each of the 3 columns there. I'm happy to go more in depth there if you all would like to answer any questions. But the high level takeaway is that we're 55% renewable in our Power On program and 67% renewable and carbon free. That's consistent with our targets, exceeding our targets that we set out ahead of time, and again consistent with what we previously reported. So again, the template on the right side of the screen is prescribed by the CEC and non-modifiable. So again, I'll apologize if it's not quite as nice as some of the other charts that we usually. I'm not good at charts, but some of the other charts that we usually show in these decks. But don't blame don't blame us for the design. But I guess I'll call attention just to the bar chart on the left side of the chart. You can see there are 2 different colors, even though there are 3 different colors in the legend. And this light is getting me, sorry, I realize I'm getting blinded by this the light coming in the window. So the red bar chart there is the California utility average. That's greenhouse gas emissions per megawatt hour. And so you can see that above 400 pounds per CO2 per megawatt hour. Hours for power on is below the California average. Also expected to be below SDG&E for reference when we see their numbers published here shortly as well. Unfortunately, there's no Power 100 bar because it's 0, so 0 emissions show up. They don't even give us a little placeholder. It doesn't even show up on the chart. And again, the CEC doesn't allow us to modify the template, so that's where we end up. And then on the right side as well, you can see the breakdown into 3 columns: power on the left, power 100 in the middle, and then the California power mix. So it breaks it out by each renewable technology, and then those down below as well. But you can see power on the left side, sorry, in the middle, the left side of the right columns there, 54.9% renewable, mostly solar and wind, with some biomass and geothermal and hydro as well. And then 12% almost large hydro as well. And then power 100, as expected, here is 100% renewable, and we broke that down with 50% solar and 50% wind. And you can see the comparison there to the power mix, the California power mix as well. So that's the kind of the high level report card for this year. I will move on. I mentioned we also have power content label that we include this in the mailers that go out. So again, that's a credit there to I think Lucas and his team for prepping those, and I think a lot of other teams outside Power Services. Kimberly, if you can go to the next slide, please. I'll just preview those here as well. These will be going out once you all approve this and approve the power content label. Then you can see how this fits into the mailer that we send around. So it's that one little, again, the ugly chart in the middle, but it has then a bunch of other nicer looking images around explanations around how SDCP works. We're also been promoting our partnership with OhmConnect. And then if you go to the next slide, please, Kimberly, on the back or the front, however you look at it, just more information again here about SDCP. And then on the right side, you can see we're also plugging our community power plan and the survey involved in that too, trying to get more feedback from the community. So that's the power content label. That's the power content label mailer that will be going out here, I believe, in early September. And Lucas, feel free to correct me on those dates. That's the extent of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you all have. And if not, happy to move to the next slide, Kimberly, for the recommendation.
All right, so this is, as Byron said, this is not new information. We've been talking about this for a bit, but although the actual content label is something that we've not seen before, and it's pretty much formulaic, it's not fancy, and Byron did not design it. It was designed by the regulators, as you can see, it was designed by regulators.
I don't know if I could have done any better myself, Chair. I won't take credit for that, but I'm sure plenty of folks on staff could have. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Byron? Kimberly, do we have any?
Oh, Chair Mosca.
Yes.
A question, just to clarify. Well, thank you, Byron. We appreciate the challenge of the label, but it's certainly great to see what our power on content is even at this level. The annual report that we're reporting, is that available on the SDCP website?
Yes, I believe so. My understanding, and again, this is outside of my arena, but I would presume this would be posted on our website as well. And I'll allow. It looks like Nelson's chiming in here to save me. Okay. Nelson, feel free to chime in, and Lucas as well.
Hi, Director LaCava. Yes, the power content label and the power content mailer will both go on our website once you have adopted the resolution.
Okay. And the annual report that's referenced in the resolution, that's on the website as well?
Byron, I believe that's the one that goes to the CEC.
That's a good question. We can get back to you, Director LaCava. I'm not sure where that will be posted. I know it'll be available. They're all available publicly. I'm not sure if we're intending to put them on the, or Lucas may again correct me here too. But we certainly, I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
Yeah, so thank you, Byron. Good evening, directors. The CEC essentially posts all of the approved and ratified power content labels on their website as well, in addition to the load serving entities also posting it on their respective websites.
Oh, Lucas, I'm not sure I understood. Was that just the label? I was kind of curious about the annual reports.
Correct. So they post the labels, and I think the reports are also, if I remember correctly, posted somewhere on the CEC website as well.
Okay, but we don't post them on our website?
We should be able to post them on our website, similar to what Nelson recommended after the board approves the motion that's in front of you.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, you're right. We wouldn't post it until it was approved. So, but thank you for that. I appreciate the clarifications. I don't have any other questions. Sure.
Good questions, Director LaCava. Can we follow up with Director LaCava to make sure that those documents are in fact are on our website and maybe even give a link to the CEC's website? Director Sotelo Solis.
Thank you so much. I'd like to move approval and adoption of the resolution approving and attesting to the accuracy of SDCP's 2021 Power Source Disclosure Program and the annual reports on Power 100 and the 2021 Power Content Label.
You should have put as part of your motion to waive the reading of it. No.
Oh man, next time.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any further questions in this item? Kimberly, do we have any public comment? Did you already say?
No written public comments and no hands raised.
All right, perfect. And it's been said already that actually Power On is at 55% and not 50%. So great job to our power procurement team. So that's awesome. All right, so let's, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Director Baber, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Director McCann, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director LaCava, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director Sotelo Solis, how do you vote?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Director Lawson Remer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair Mosca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
All right, that moves us to the last item on our agenda, and that's update on SDCP staffing plan, organizational structure, and the Mercer salary study. And this is going to be presented by our CEO, Karen Burns, and this is a very important presentation. Well, all of our presentations are important. This is very forward-looking.
Thank you, Chairman Mosca. Appreciate it. Good evening, board members and members of the public. I'm going to present today, as Joe mentioned, the Mercer study findings, our evolving organizational chart, our staffing plans through fiscal year 2023. There is a lot in here, so I think it's best for me to go through the presentation first, and then we'll take comments and questions. Next slide, please. Again, that's our agenda. This will take about 20 minutes. Next slide, please. All right, so as a background, in the April board meeting, we had agreed to obtain a third-party study to determine whether our salary levels were consistent with the current market. We did this for 3 reasons. 1, staff retention. 2, talent attraction. And 3, to develop a comprehensive approach to salary bands and salary levels as we begin to scale the organization. So we conducted an informal competitive solicitation, and through that we selected Mercer, who has also performed numerous salary study surveys for other CCAs across California. Next slide, please. We focused the study on our current positions, knowing that the salary bands that arose and came out of this process could be used for the ones that are coming. Mercer used market data from general industries, from the energy industry specifically, and for the executive team only, the California CCAs. This methodology was chosen because for many positions, marketing, finance, admin, we are competing primarily with the larger job market in the private sector. For our energy industry folks, we are competing with mostly private sector companies in the energy industry where their skills are currently in very high demand. And for our C-suite, our executives, we added the CCA salaries because that provided a better triangulation, as those of us in this industry are driven also by public service. Next slide, please. From this data, and after discussions with Mercer, we then determined to use the wide band salary approach. Why? Because this enables us to develop a grading structure with relatively few, so roughly 10 to 12 distinct grades. Again, we'll be at most a 40 to 50% organization. That also allows us to appreciate role flexibility, career growth, different levels of skills that people bring into the organization, and to allow for career pathing in the future. Next slide, please. So we came up with a grading scale of roughly 10 to 20. We then reviewed the grading scale and we made a few additional adjustments to better align with our values. Notably, I dropped out the highest pay grade and the lowest pay grade. At the top level, this better aligned with our salary structure with that of a public agency. And by dropping out the bottom pay grade, we are ensuring a meaningful wage for any incoming junior staff. Next slide, please. The result is the salary band structure that you see here as a guide to improve retention, to attract top talent, to ensure pay equity, and to take a comprehensive, holistic, and transparent approach to our hiring and HR. So our goal is to use these salary bands as a guide going forward. And as a result of these findings, we do have some pay inequities that we are planning to address by way of salary adjustments. The total adjustments that we are making are between around 125 to 145K for the year. And this amount is already covered in the budget line item that was approved during our budget process because we anticipated we might have some changes to make as a result of this study. Next slide, please. All right, so this next section outlines our evolving and proposed organizational structure through fiscal year 2020.
Sorry to interrupt you, Karen. Can you just go back for one more second on that other slide? Just give me one more second. So we don't have on, these are the bands, but you don't have the adjustments listed here.
Correct. No, I do not.
Okay. Are they in the report elsewhere?
They are not. We thought that was rather personal, but if you would like, we can debrief.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
The total amount, as I indicated, was going to be less than 150, somewhere between 125 and 145.
Yeah, just be obviously we do not want names, but it would be helpful just to see what the specific adjustments are for different positions. But thank you.
Yep. Okay. So this next section will outline our evolving and proposed org structure through fiscal year 2023, which for us is June 30th. We'll be working towards this plan, and it is the result of several collaborative discussions with our E-team and our directors after the strategic planning process took place. The goal there was to align our staffing with the goals and direction of that strategic plan that was complete. So as part of this process, we went through the personnel budget to make sure that every position we plan to hire for this year is already budgeted for, either because it was already in the budget, because we had savings from a number of sources in the same line item, or because we can delay or move other hires into fiscal year 2024. Now, and so as a result, with this rapidly growing organizational structure, it's possible it will evolve. So this picture is subject to change as and if needed as we go forward. The key below explains our thinking. Those individuals in plain blue boxes are already hired. Those in the red boxes are to be hired this fiscal year, and they already fall within the budgeted staffing plan. Those in black are to be hired in fiscal year 2024 or in the latter 2 quarters of the 2023 calendar year. And those in yellow will be hired and their cost will be covered by programmatic funding from a third party. After a lot of discussion, we landed on the above for those key team members that will report to the CEO. We spent a lot of time thinking about where HR should live, knowing that this is an incredibly important function for the organization. We also looked at recent data, which gave us some insights that right now, about 60% of all organizations, especially those in the service business, have HR reporting directly to the CEO, with only 10% reporting to the COO. And so we determined that the HR function should report to the CEO right now, especially given the rapid scaling we're going through, the heavy lifting that's been required in the department, and the importance of HR in the development and maintenance of our core values and our culture.
I think it's important that move was made, because I think it sends a signal that we really, we're a people organization, and diversity and inclusion is incredibly important. And this person, this chief people person, is really going to report right up to the director or the CEO. So I think it tells the values of this organization.
Next slide, Kim. Thank you. Okay. The Power team has added 2 new team members this month, so it's effectively doubled in size. Kenny Key, who started last week, and Taco Dait Kumba, who will start on Monday. As you could see, we are going to double this this department again from 4 to 8 over the next 9 months. We're interviewing for the portfolio manager positions now, and then thereafter we'll focus on hiring a local area resource development manager and a load forecaster. This structure is fairly consistent with what we had planned earlier in the year. I'd also like to take this time to give an enormous shout out to Byron and Carlos, who since April have been running a nearly 8-person show with just 2 people. This is arguably one of the most important functions in our organization, and one with the least room for error. They have worked tirelessly, not to mention nights and weekends, and not without a lot of stress, to keep us on track with our hedges and compliance with our RA requirements, and in building our renewables portfolio. So thank you so much to Byron and Carlos, and we welcome our new team members. Next slide. On the finance side, we are soon making an offer for financial analysts, and we will also be adding a risk manager to this team. The risk manager will work closely with our power team to identify, measure, and manage risk at the intersection of power and finance. I'd also like to give a shout out to Eric Washington, who has been our acting COO, as well as our CFO, and my second in command since the end of June, and who has shown tremendous leadership, empathy, and support for me, for his team, and for this entire organization. Thank you, Eric. And I would be remiss not to give a huge thank you to Tim, who has done an amazing job with the budget, with our financial management, with our reporting, and with our communications to the board. Next slide, please. We are also growing our data team, and this year we'll be looking to add a database engineer. I want to give a big thank you to Lucas, Carly, and Ryan, who not only quickly and kindly address customer concerns, but are also highly proactive in anticipating them and in our customers' needs and queries. They are also on the front line in the management of 2 very important relationships, Calpine and SDG&E, and that is no small task. So thank you, guys. Next slide, please. We'll be looking for a COO towards the end of the year, and an IT manager to help with all of our IT needs in Q4. This latter position was not initially anticipated. However, after consultation with our directors and our administrative team to be efficient with our admin team's time, the need became very clear. The COO role will be to run the day-to-day and to focus on people and project management. On this slide, I want to give a big shout out to Lorena for her incredible and amazing support to our entire team. Lorena had a birthday last week, and typically we send out email happy birthday salutations to everyone in various ways. In her case, one of her colleagues from a different department made and sent her the Supergirl meme and shared it with all of us, saying, "Happy birthday. We don't know how you do it, but we have a theory." And it was just really cute, got us all smiling and joining in with notes of appreciation after she had had a particularly long week. So thank you very much, Lorena. And I would be remiss also not to give a huge shout out to Kimberly, who has been taking over the board clerk role more fully and who keeps me and my schedule in line. So thank you, Kimberly. Next slide, please. Okay. We will soon be hiring a PR director who will be an expert in public relations and comms, as well as a marketing associate. We're close to that hire, and we're super excited by the quality of the candidates that we have had the opportunity to interview. A big thank you to Lee and Rachel, who have been carrying the torch since Rita's departure, who have been maintaining robust engagement with our partners, as you saw earlier, and who have been all the while building our brand and developing engaging campaigns. So thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, we have nearly doubled the size of our programs team. We've got one gal coming on next week and one in mid-September. We're currently hiring for a senior program manager who will have a strong background in energy efficiency. And we're also exploring hiring a manager to pursue federal and state funding grants, either alone or in partnership with local and regional coalitions in response to the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. A big shout out to Nelson on this slide, who has been working tirelessly to ensure robust engagement by and with our communities in the development of our community power plan this past several months. Thank you so much, Nelson. And also to Colin, who's on a well-deserved break right now, who has been building our funding strategy and leading the development of these various coalitions. Next slide, please. We are not anticipating any current hires in our regulatory team at this time. We have a stellar team in place, as well as an excellent lineup of our legal consultants. A big shout out though to Sebastian and Stephen for carrying the ball forward in Laura's absence, and to Ty and Blue Moon for their continued excellent support. Next slide, please. Okay, last on the org chart, we'll be posting the position of an HR director or senior director in the next few weeks, who will continue to work closely with our Ignite HR team, excuse me, in the months to come. I also want to give a huge shout out to Nancy Derbish at Ignite HR. She has been behind the scenes working tirelessly, far more than we had anticipated, to get our HR foundation in place, to establish our policies, to secure our benefits, and to ensure we hire thoughtfully, consistently, transparently, and in line with our mission and values. She established a safety team. She re-energized our internal staff welfare team, and she has been just an amazing addition, despite being up in the Bay Area. She comes down frequently. She's really done so much for our team. I just have to give a big thank you to her. All right, next slide, please. And this table outlines what you just saw. So everyone in a red box is now in this plan in some form or another. We will be using these are our expected hires. These are the quarters, the calendar year quarter we plan to hire them in, and the salary bands that we'll be looking at. So and this does not count the people we already hired, the last 4 or 5 people. So as you can see, we have a lot of hiring to do, close to 14, 15 positions by the end of this calendar year, fiscal year. Because of this, we really needed that comprehensive, scalable, process-driven approach to hiring and to the HR function. So now with our recruiting, our hiring, our onboarding processes now in place and being implemented and refined on a weekly basis, with our recruiter at the ready, available to assist, we feel confident that we can recruit this team in a timely manner while still ensuring our hiring is thoughtful and aligned with our mission, vision, and values. That is what I have as a presentation for today. I want to open it up for questions and comments.
Well, that is an excellent presentation, Karen. Thank you to our CEO. You've done an amazing job. Still not that long on the job, and you are delivering. These are several items that the board has shown a desire to be addressed, and you've addressed it, and you are addressing it. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your responsiveness. Specifically to the compensation study, having been with this agency from the very beginning, a comprehensive look was much needed and appreciated, because truly in the beginning, it was just kind of looking around to see what was fair market value, and there was no comprehensive thought of how this was all going to work together, and therefore this is not only a comprehensive approach, but it's also addressing some of the equity issues that we've seen and potentially could see in the future if we didn't have this kind of strategic approach. So thank you, because we definitely want to make sure that we're retaining the talent that we have, and that we're recruiting, and that we have an equitable approach to how we're working with all of our employees. And I think that the IT manager, we see this on a daily basis, and it puts a lot of burden on many of our team members that their talents lie in some other place other than trying to ping somebody on a cell phone or understand whether Zoom is working or this is working or that's working. And so really having an IT manager is going to pay back in dividends. And so I'm a strong believer in that. And also the HR director, I've been talking about this for a while. I deeply believe that we need a director of diversity, inclusion, and people person as quickly as possible. And I think that as you've kind of imagined and envisioned, having that person report to the CEO just really drives home the point that this is such a critical value of ours and critical role that she needs to report right up to the CEO. And so thank you for this, and also the obvious kind of point that was made in previous meetings about the hires and where are we going? What does it look like for the future? We've put a implementation plan together in the past, but as we're kind of rolling out this program in this agency, facts on the ground change, and so this is really adjusting and appropriately adjusting. So I think that this is a really good plan for the future. And I see Director Sotelo Solis's hand up, so I want to recognize her for any questions and comments.
Thank you so much. I too wanted to just echo your sentiments. I think we really asked for a comprehensive look at what would be appropriate for compensation with the roles that we really needed as infrastructure, quote unquote, to really move our organization forward. And Karen, you've hit the ground running. Thank you to the team that has been small but mighty. And now we are going to send in the troops to give additional help. And that's our commitment to you and to our constituents. And I'm just very proud to see these various opportunities now arise and be out in the open in a very transparent manner. The fact that we did a 3-prong approach at the salary bands, really recognizing that this is an employee market, but also too making it reasonable within those 3 comparative employee sectors. I think that's really important. And hopefully we continue to recruit good talent. Don't touch any of my staff. Thank you very much, City of National City. I'm sure you feel protective of your own people, but I think there's always opportunities to grow and be stronger. It's all helping. And I don't know, through the chair to Karen, I know through recruitment, I jokingly said, don't touch my staff, but I think the thought is to go external, to even though we know that they're great people all over, but to poach good talent. We want to expand our nets. I don't know if you had any thoughts, Karen, on what you're doing for recruitment and through the chair.
Sure. If I could answer that. So we've hired a recruiter, right, for sure. We did that in the last board meeting, and that's exactly the mandate to him was don't steal from our neighbors, please. Go find a really great talent that's local or that wants to become local. Some of our jobs are very local based and we need that local experience, but there are quite a few that someone can learn or they can transfer those skills, and the local element is not quite as important. But we are looking to build our team here locally. So we have a recruiter. We are focused on recruiting wide, but also deep. So not just looking far and wide, but also looking deep into our communities. And so that's a bit of a challenge, but he's risen to that challenge, and they have brought us some really incredible talent. And our own team also has brought some incredible talent. So this has been an enormous team effort overall to get here to this point and to get to a moment where we feel we are ready to scale.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you again, Karen. Thank you, Joe, Chair Mosca, for your leadership in this. I know, again, having been on from the very beginning to now, I think that, again, we're ramping up. This is where, what we've been talking about. I mean, since I've been here, and it's just been what feels like longer, but I think since January. No, I think it's been, I don't even remember when we started, but I think it's, again, I'm feeling that excitement. And I know as people start seeing these job opportunities, there's going to be a lot of excitement out in the community. The only last thing I would say is, as we start recruiting these positions, please let our communities as SDCP partners You know, if there's a link that we can send out to our community groups or to the various, you know, spaces, employment groups within our respective cities. I'm not saying our governments, but, you know, our listservs, I think it's important for people to know. So thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. No, we won't go to National City. We won't go to National City local government to get our employees. I think that point is across.
As I shake my fist.
But I do like our CEO's comment about going deep into the communities. I think that that's an important comment. Any other questions or comments on this item? Kimberly, do we have any public comments on this item?
There are no written comments and no hands raised.
All right, so we'll bring it back to the board. Last chance, any questions or comments on this item? All right, well, thank you, Karen. This is a receive and file, and thank you so much for this update. Excellent update. Thank you. So that was our last item. So we're going to move to reports by management, and Karen, you're back up. This is our CEO management report.
All right, great. Okay, good stuff. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are just some slides about what we've been up to. So we are really proud clean energy sponsors of ST Loyal, our local soccer team. And we've been participated in quite a few events. Our participation includes stadium signage, corner kicks, even supporting local select youth academy team. Which offers a true local professional pathway for elite players in the region. We were also pleased, you can see the picture there, we were pleased to join ST Loyal for their Loyal Partners and Club Members event at Stone Brewing this past month. I sat next to the president of the organization who was from Brazil. So we had a lot to chat about, and we are really excited about some of the really cool things we're going to do together in our communities going forward. Next slide. We had, as we talked about last month, we hosted East Bay Clean Energy on site earlier in August, and they shared with us their innovative ideas and approaches to local DER development, to data analysis and analytics, to the PCIA, and to some of their programmatic work, including EV programs. Then we had a fun night out at the Padres game, enjoyed getting to know them, and made some great connections, which will help us as we build and think about how we want to grow. Next slide. Oh, next slide, please. Okay, great. So these photos are from the Southeast San Diego Science and Art Expo, which is a really inclusive science, art, and culture event that welcomes families from around San Diego County. Approximately 800 to 1,000 people. So we also tabled at several libraries in the unincorporated SD, like involving pop-up events for the community power plan, including the Lakeside Library, which is pictured here. Next slide. Next slide, please. Great. In addition to the speaking opportunities we secured last month, we'll be speaking at a few more events and activities in both August and September. And we've got some exciting speaking events in October coming up that we'll share out next month. Next slide, please. We talked about the Lunch and Learn program. We have now formalized and calendared several of those. And we've decided that we will have these approximately 2 times per month. So we've got a Clean Tech San Diego coming. We've got a conflict management seminar we're doing for the staff. And Grid Alternatives is coming to tell us all the exciting things they're doing around the country in September. Next slide, please. All right, we wanted to also preview some upcoming important finance activities that will take place in September and October. This is a light month. That's not going to be the case in the coming months. In September, we will be reviewing at the FRMC our preliminary fiscal year end for 2022, the financial results, as well as our financials through July 31st. And then in October, we'll be reviewing our year-end audit report, first with the FRMC and then with the full board. So you're going to be seeing a bit more on the finance side of things in the next 2 months. Next slide, please. All right, and then last, just a couple of these HR updates. We talked about some of the really exciting, the intense work we've been doing to get our HR house in order. One of the things we did now is we successfully enrolled in a new benefits program for the upcoming year. This enabled us within the same budget to have more robust coverage, including lower out-of-pocket maximums, which was really helpful for families. We have a more competitive and attractive medical, dental, vision, and ancillary benefit options that we weren't previously available. We have the ability from an administrative efficiency perspective to integrate directly with the Paychex payroll portal, which greatly simplifies the administration of these benefits. All of these are already covered within our fiscal year budget, and we were also able to add FSA accounts for both health and dependent care. So that's what we've done. We've drafted and are finalizing our remote work policy. We've finalized our leave policy. We've developed our recruiting, hiring, and onboarding processes. As I discussed before, those were done collaboratively, and we've welcomed 5 new hires in August. Lastly, given that we do have a majority of our board turning over in November, we are deep in the process of developing a board orientation package and session, which will include a handbook for our session, some meet the team events, which will enable our new board members to hit the ground running with ease in January. That's all for the management update, and I'll hand it back over to Chairman.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, and last, do we have a report by General Counsel?
No, I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Any director comments? If there are no director comments, then that is the end of our meeting. So we are adjourned, and everybody have a safe, nice evening. Take care,
Thank
guys.
you.